I'm now approaching the end of my FY1 year, and having been through the transition from medical student to doctor so recently, I know how daunting it is thinking about being a real life doctor all on your own. So take these 25 tips that I've put together from my experience, from me to you, to help you survive your FY1 year. Never attempt to work without a pen and paper. As the FY1, it's really common for you to be told to do random small jobs that can really add up during the day, and you will forget to do them if you haven't written them down on paper. When you're starting an on-call shift, which means you'll be working out of hours and carrying a bleep, make sure you write the wards or the areas of the hospital that you're covering on top of your piece of paper, so when you're receiving handover or bleeps, you know to take the jobs that you're responsible for. Whenever you're asked to see a patient, no matter what the complaint is, if you're in doubt, do an A to E assessment on every patient. This will ensure you haven't missed anything important and you've carried out a safe review. Before you go and see a patient, unless it's an emergency, make sure you take some time to read about the patient's history, understand why they've come into hospital, how long they've been in for, etc. Because that is really important to put your review into context, and it's easier if you do that before you see the patient compared to if you do it after seeing the patient. In the first few days and weeks of FY1, if possible, try and pair up with one of the other FY1s and go to do your jobs together and do your patient reviews together. This will help to increase your confidence and make sure you don't miss anything out. Download these apps. Induction Switch will provide you with any number in the hospital that you might need. Microguide is going to give you the most accurate guidance on antibiotics for your local area. Smart Doctor costs a couple of pounds, but it's really good for on-calls, and it gives you management plans for the most common complaints that you'll see on your on-call shifts. So it will help you carry out the right investigations and perform the correct management. BNF and MD Calc you will already know about. Whenever you're in doubt, even the slightest bit, escalate to a senior. Ask as many questions as you need to in order to learn. Don't be afraid to clarify senior plans if you don't understand why something is being done. Don't hesitate to start doing procedures, even if you haven't had a lot of practice in medical school. As the FY1, you're going to be the first port of call for cannulas, NG tubes, ABGs, catheters, so you'll need to get used to doing these procedures quickly. At the start, try to go as a pair or ask a senior nurse to supervise you. As the FY1, another common job is to ring different specialties and ask for advice or imaging. Make sure you know the relevant details about your patient's history before you make this call, and that your opening line is an introduction and a clear request. For example, my name's Hiba, I'm one of the doctors calling from Ward X, and I'm calling to get some advice about my patient's antibiotics. I also found it helpful to write down some details that I think they might ask me on a piece of paper and have it in front of me when I'm making the calls. Whatever you do, make sure you've documented everything clearly, because if it's not documented, it didn't happen. Even if you take all the right steps for managing a patient, if there's no documentation, there's no evidence of that happening. So to keep yourself safe, make sure you're documenting everything. Don't prescribe things just because someone's telling you to. You need to agree with a prescription request, because once you sign it, that's your name alongside that prescription, so it's your responsibility. If possible, try to always do your own reviews and prescribe based on that. Start working on your portfolio early. ARCP, which is your review before you move into FY2, actually happens 10 months into the job, not after 12 months. And the time goes by really quickly, especially with leave, things like that. So you need to start building your evidence. In your ARCP, the reviewers also look to see if you've been engaging with portfolio over the course of the year and not just filling things in last minute. You may have to do a bit of chasing to get sign-off, so try and be proactive. If you review a patient or you have an experience that you think will be good to write about in your portfolio, write down the details of this case somewhere, because trust me, because of the sheer number of patients you'll be seeing, unless you write these details down, you'll completely forget that you ever had this encounter by the time that you actually get the chance to write about it, and it will be a missed opportunity. Please make sure that you have comfortable shoes, because you're going to spend a lot of time on your feet and a lot of time rushing around to different parts of the hospital, especially when you're on call. Take a water bottle and proactively drink from it. I often finish 12.5-hour shifts and realize that I haven't even finished my 500 milliliter Aldi water bottle. It's really not good for your health. You need to stay hydrated. If possible, try to prepare meals in advance for your on-call shifts and your night shifts. You're going to be extremely tired after these shifts, and you're not going to have the energy to cook, so it's really easy to resort to unhealthy food and takeaways. But actually what you need is a meal that will nourish you after these long shifts, so plan in advance. Whenever you have jobs outstanding at the end of your shift, hand them over safely. Unless it's an emergency, you shouldn't be staying late to finish tasks tasks. Work in a hospital is 24/7. Jobs are never going to be over, so you need to set boundaries in order to take care of yourself. Book annual leave early to give you the best chance of getting your desired dates off. Make sure you're proactively taking your self-development time, which is time for you to use to do private study, portfolio, things like that, and is 2 hours per week or can usually be taken as 1 full day off each month. Oftentimes you'll need to send reminders about this, so make sure you're not missing out. Ask seniors if you can get involved in quality improvement projects or audits. At least one is required in FY1 for your portfolio. Again, another thing that you'll need to be proactive in, because it's less likely that someone's going to approach you about a project and more likely that you'll get onto one quite easily if you're proactively asking about them. Make sure you work collaboratively with the nurses and with the rest of the MDT, the rest of the members of hospital staff. We're all a team. Make sure you're regularly doing things outside of your work and keeping up with your hobbies. The tough schedule in FY1, especially if you have a high on-call burden, can really make it feel like work is taking over your life. Make friends and attend socials with the other FY1s. You're all in the same boat, and work is so much more fun and enjoyable when you're working with your friends. It can feel like uni vibes again, and work is just that bit easier when you're friends with everyone. Lastly, be familiar with how to access support at your hospital, and don't hesitate to access it if you need it, including talking to your educational and clinical supervisors. As much as medicine is interesting and exciting, there are definitely difficult moments as part of the job. It can be really physically and emotionally demanding, so please be aware of how to take care of yourself and access support when you need it. Please don't forget to subscribe if you found this video helpful, and I'll see you in the next video.